public thought leader as a necessary part of propelling action on my own part, as well as hoping to move other people to action.
If we are going to be social justice warriors, there's a reason they call it warriors. We go to battle, and that means we're going to court injury. We put things at risk, ourselves and our family at risk.
I fully expect to be under attack, and that's been my experience my entire life. Do I want to open myself up to more risk? No, but I feel like we're in a moment where you can't be neutral. Right. You have to take a stand.
Experience in the room together is a chance to talk about what I think about as gaps in truth. How can we make our knowledge count? How can we acknowledge what's happening and the hard realities, and also not let those be our destiny? What could happen to history, to the world, if we can insert new ideas into the public consciousness?
For people who are embodied in particular ways, for folks of color, for women, for transgender brothers and sisters and siblings, I think there is a very real uneven risk for becoming a public voice. And I think it also means that some of us who are called to be bridge builders, to be cartographers, to be map makers on what is a rapidly changing political, social, and spiritual terrain in the United States.
You know, Jennifer mentioned earlier in the room that there are no such thing as safe spaces, just brave ones. And so just as we need to kind of gird ourselves to be ready for the attacks, we can also rest a little easier that there will also be calls of support and applause and people who are saying, thanks for speaking my heart when I didn't have the moment or the courage to do so.
I think in this moment, for people like myself, Black people, brown people, queer people, there is a sense of feeling a bit unsafe as it relates to saying things that may be anti what is happening and the kind of agenda that the administration is advancing. And as far as I'm concerned, that agenda is anti-Black, it is anti-poor, it is anti-immigrant, anti-woman. And in this moment, most of us must actually put our bodies on the line and be the resistance and say that awful policy, racist policies will have to go through me before they get to the communities they are intended to harm.
Fighting for justice is dangerous. It's very easy to identify a person, right, and target a person. But what if it's 1,000 Malcolm X's? What if it's 1,000 Harriet Tubmans who have that ability unlocked in them, just like I had it unlocked in me?
Being able to put a perspective from my community, try to get it out to as many people as possible, I think is important. So it's a challenge that I'm honored to be a part of. So I do appreciate it.
Making people feel, and especially making people and women of color feel like they're not alone, that's a big piece of my motivation. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about race to audiences of people who maybe aren't thinking about it as much, and to do it in a way that is a little bit more approachable, and that makes people feel brought in and like they can talk about this stuff. I think it's important. I write about race because I want people to talk about it.
I was able to get a piece published in the Chronicle on Philanthropy about how progressive philanthropy deepens racism. And since May, have trained the executive team at Gates, the executive team at Zuckerberg. We're gonna do Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation this coming week. We're doing a piece with Anne McDougall at Encore. So I feel like we're making allies in updating our narrative, because the ones we have just don't work.
The Pulse tragedy that happened, that was an example of what we call gendered Islamophobia, where Trump came out and said yes to a Muslim ban, right? And said, we're defending LGBT people from Muslims. And then what happens to someone who is both of those things. And so LGBT Muslims took action and said, we want to get our stories out there that talk about us as humans and talk about us as part of our families.
What's hopeful about this political and social moment is that because of the times we're living in and because of the complex issues that we're being asked to face as a country and as a species, there's more room for my leadership now. I feel like things that I've said my whole life, people are now listening in a different way because we have to, because we're being forced to confront the legacy of ignorance and the legacy of avoidance.
It is really, truly about, living a life that is rich with self-actualization, full self-expression. It is so key to the walk for me to say what needs to be said, to write what needs to be said from my perspective.
One of the things that has definitely moved me and where I definitely have taken a position is making sure that I advocate for communities that have not had access to equitable housing. I was able to write a piece in Next City, which is a publication that is read, very broadly. I also worked with a reporter from the New York Times, and that story ran on the front page above the fold.
I think about the small things that can be done, small victories like being able to interact and connect with young people, students who are interested in doing racial justice work and having conversations with them that will help them further their knowledge and their growth in order to support racial justice work. Those are the hopeful moments for me that I have to focus on in order to be able to keep going.
I think some of the amazing things that have come out of this time is the increased recognition from so many people, leaders and organizers and just everyday folks about the importance of connection, the importance of getting to know each other and standing together.